So you guys have been asking for a tutorial in Noia for a while now.
Are you gonna do something?
I didn't want to promise anything out the gate.
Wait, hold on.
Didn't want to commit to something that I couldn't deliver on.
I have to mentally prepare myself.
But I have been working on some things lately over the past week. And would you like to see it? I still don't have a tutorial. Hello everybody, welcome back to Noia Dev, the series that aims to prove that one developer can create a successful MMO RPG. My name is Dane, and this week on Noia Dev we're going to go over the new player experience and UI changes. Let's get into this. While it is true that Noia doesn't have exactly a tutorial that will hand-hold you through every facet of playing the game, there are still plenty of things that will nudge the player along to teach them how to play. When Alpha dropped, there was nothing. The players would log into the game, they would appear, and they had no idea what to do, and nothing was explained to them whatsoever. A lot of you gave me a lot of good feedback about that, and I took it all to heart and used it to improve the user experience, or UX for short. One of the first things that I did here was I actually finished up the starting cutscenes that everybody sees when they create a new player. In a previous devlog, I had shown that I had the ability to create cutscenes, but I didn't have one complete yet. I only had about a quarter of one. Well, that cutscene is complete now. And if you want to watch it, you need to log in and create a new character. While the secondhand embarrassment from voice acting my own cutscene nearly killed me, what tarnation is that? The important part is, at the tail end of the cutscene, the player wakes up in the underworld and is greeted by Dan the Skull. Dan says something very poignant, and that is, "Come here and let me get a look at you," inviting the character to go up to Dan and hopefully click on them. If the player mouses over Dan, they get this big glowing yellow outline that hopefully indicates to the player, hey, this is a clickable object. You should click it. By interacting with Dan, they will get their very first NPC dialogue window, which hopefully is intuitive enough for them to understand that they need to click on the highlighted text. By going through Dan's text, they will eventually land themselves on their very first quest. When the player accepts this quest for the very first time, they will see it pop up in the quest tracker window. When the player inspects Dan's sarcophagus for the first time, that number will change from a 0 to a 1 and change from red to green, indicating that the quest parameters have been fulfilled. If they get a little inkling to click on that quest in the quest tracker window, it'll automatically open up and show the complete button is lit. They can complete it. At no point do I put a big glaring arrow or highlighted text or anything like that to draw the player to do that. It's just gently hinted at that this is a capability that they have. This is the kind of direction that I want for Noia. I don't want to handhold the player at every opportunity. I don't want big glaring arrows and glowing icons to show this is what you should be doing. I want to nudge the player in the right direction and let the players figure it out for themselves. Being told exactly what to do is not rewarding. Being hinted at what to do and figuring it out, that is rewarding, and that's what I want for the players. Now, when the player equips a weapon for the first time, the very first skill for that weapon is automatically slotted to their hotbar. Now, only the very first attack is slotted to the hotbar. One of the things that players were saying is they didn't know how to heal, and there is a heal tied to the staff abilities, but there's no indication of that anywhere. So if you have a good idea for how I can indicate to the player that there are more skills available to them without just straight pointing to the skill book in the shortcuts menu, let me know in the comments how you would like to see that done. Now, one of the things that just wasn't intuitive at all, and that's on me, was that the stats Nobody knew what the different stats did, whether it's strength, dex, int, or wisdom. Nobody knew what they did. And so I added tooltips to each stat line in the stat window, explaining exactly what each one does. Now, if you mouse over the stat title or the stat number, a tooltip will pop up explaining exactly what that stat does and what weapons it affects. Another thing that had no descriptive text on it whatsoever were most of the skill. The player had no idea what these skills would actually do, how much damage they were expected to do, and that has now been updated. Now you can see directly on the skill exactly how much damage that skill should be doing to a monster of equal level at 0 defense. The skill also shows the requirements, the player level that you need to have achieved to be able to use that skill, as well as any stat requirements and what weapon is required to be equipped in order to use said skill. If any of these requirements aren't met, that requirement will be highlighted in red as a clear indicator this is what you're doing wrong. These same style of tooltips have also been added to all equipment items as well, in order to give the player a clear understanding of what this item does, as well as the requirements for using it. What do you guys think about these blue tooltips? Or would you prefer a different color or different style? Let me know in the comments. Another big change is the target indicator. It now updates based on what you are targeting, whether it be a monster, a player, or an interactable object NPC. The movement indicator has been changed to be a lot more concise to show you exactly where you're going to go. So hopefully this alleviates any confusion and indicates to the player exactly what they're doing when they're clicking on something in the world. You guys had expressed some frustration that you had no idea what level the monsters were that you were beating up, and that makes a whole lot of sense. So now monster levels are in the target bar or on the monster names if you choose to display those. Noia is meant to be a social MMO where you're able to talk and group with people and interact with fellow players, and I felt that the chat functionality in Noia was kind of lacking. It didn't seem like it was very easy to converse with people when you only had this tiny little chat bar down here and you had to scroll up and down in order to see chat history and whatnot. So I decided to add a chat bubble feature to the game. Making the chat bubble system on the back end was actually relatively simple. It was the UI side, of course, that gave me the most trouble. Getting the chat bubbles to expand smoothly without stretching and skewing out of proportions, as well as having them automatically grow in size based on how much text was in the bubble, was the biggest challenge here. But about a dozen YouTube tutorials later, I was able to finally get it, and now we have a chat function. It's a lot easier now to see people talking to you when they have this little bubble directly above their head, rather than having to look down at the chat and try and correlate who's saying what based on who's on your screen. Hopefully this helps a lot with talking with your fellow players, and in the future you'll be able to customize this chat bubble to your liking, and that'll be really cool too. Speaking of the social aspect of MMOs, I wanted to give you guys something to look forward to in the next video. While there are some monsters in Noia already that are group content oriented, the big lost soul and the big skelly boy here, that's all that there is at the moment. But I am beginning to work on the dungeon that will be in the underworld that is going to be oriented for level 5 and above, that will be entered by this little door right here. The players will be able to go through this dungeon and maybe get pieces of different loot that are a little better than their starting items. So keep an eye out for that. And that's it for this week. I've got to get back to work, but hey, give the video a like and subscribe. It helps grow the community. Nobody wants to play in a dead MMO. And we'll see y'all next time. Thanks.